My name is Keith Thomas. I'm coming here today to tell y'all something about racism in schools. I have a 14-year-old son. His name is Julian Thomas. Last year around this time, he went to Howland Middle School. And he was racially profiled. He was called out by two principals and a superintendent at Howland Middle School. And the reason for that was the day this happens on a Friday, the week before Columbus Day. I had got a phone call from the assistant principal there at Howland Middle School. I can't remember his name, but it ain't easy to get it. It ain't hard getting it. But anyway, it was a Friday morning. I got a phone call from Howland Middle School. And I got a phone call by the assistant principal saying, I need to come get my son. And his exact words to me was, you need to come get your son because he was caught with narcotics. 3 bottles of narcotics. Now, give you a quick little backstory of my son. He's 6'2", 240. He's a mama's boy. And he's very naive. Very naive. Meaning, we sheltered him, But this is the reason why I'm saying this. The boy don't even know what narcotics is. The boy didn't even understand when he said narcotics. And it takes me darn near an hour to give him medicine. Because I got to darn near wrestling down to the ground and force it down his throat. So that's the quick background of my son. Now, I got the phone call from Howland Middle School by the assistant principal stating, your son need to get picked up because we caught him with 3 bottles of narcotics. Now, the 3 bottles in this, his possessions was, and I quote, 1 bottle of antibiotics, 1 bottle of blood pressure medicine, and a 3rd bottle of antibiotics, blood pressure medicine, and and ibuprofen. Now, the 3 bottles that they had in their possession now, they knew what the 3 bottles was. They knew. They knew they wasn't narcotics. They knew they wasn't his because, now, continuing with the story, the female, my son's friend, she has a heart problem. And she needed her medication, but she didn't have no pockets because she had leggings. Now, I don't know why the girl freaking was carrying them like that, but she was. But she did ask my son, can he please carry them for her to her locker so they won't fall? Now, he shouldn't have did it. I told him that. He knew it. But how do you tell somebody not to be a gentleman? We raise our kids to be gentlemen, to be young ladies. So how can you tell your son or daughter, don't do something for somebody, when you tell them there ain't nothing wrong with doing something for somebody? So my son tells her, I would do it, but I'm only going to carry him to your locker. And she said, okay, because they had lunch the next period. So as he putting them in his pocket and walking out of the room, class, a bottle falls and opens up. So him and her are bending down trying to pick him up. Trying to hurry and pick him up, because they was like, it was right in between classes changing. And a teacher seen them fall and ran over there and said, what are y'all doing? And my son says, I'm helping her pick this medication up because it's hers, and putting it in her bottle. So the teacher says, no, y'all need to hurry to pick them up and you going down to the office. So my son and the girl was like, okay. And they started picking them up and then start walking down to the office. And the teacher says, we're going to split y'all up. And as they was walking in the next to the teacher, the assistant principal, the one that called me, says, hurry up, split them up. I don't want him telling her anything. I want them split up. Now, mind you, the young lady is white. Of course, my son is black. So this assistant principal takes the girl in the office and started talking to her. Now, mind you, the young lady we talking about, she literally told me and my wife everything that was said in this room. Everything. So she says, as soon as they walk in there, her and her mom, well, her, sorry about that, it's her this time. She comes out and says, he tried to force me to say those pills was narcotics and to say that Julian, my son, made her bring these narcotics to school for him. Now, remember I told you that he knew what the bottles was. He knew since about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. Because the girl told him soon as they went into the office. And she told the teacher that was taking them down to the office that they were nothing but antibiotics, ibuprofen, and blood pressure medicine. Because she has the bad heart. And I never heard of blood pressure medicine having to keep the blood pumping faster because she got a bad heart. So Howland Middle School knew this. They knew the medication was what they was, everything. Since the principal knew it. So when she comes out, he said, my son to come in. Told my son, come in, Julian. So shut the door and everything. And he sits down. And the first word out of his mouth to my son was, how many of those narcotics you take? And remember, I told my son is very naive. He is naive. He says, 3. And since principal, you took 3 narcotic pills? He said he thought the principal was talking about he took the 3 bottles. But the assistant principal was trying to say, how many did you take individually out of a bottle? And my son said, no, I didn't take none. After he explained what he's saying, he said, well, we know they were narcotics and you took them. And my son said, I didn't take nothing. I was carrying it for her to her locker for she can put it in her locker. So this principal says, well, you have to go home because you probably either go to jail or go to prison for this because narcotics is a serious thing and how dare he have them. And now my son, he was panicking now. Now, schools have to have a parent or somebody else in that room with a principal or teacher if you're discussing anything dealing with suspension, expel, so forth and so forth. Well, this principal, he's cocky. He just flat out didn't care at all. He made my son feel like, in my own son's words, feel like he was a drug dealer. And he looked my son up and down and said, you took those narcotics and you go to jail or prison. So, now mind you, he's saying this to my son. Now, after that conversation with my son, he then called me and said, you need to come get your son. He had narcotics and we got a situation with him. And mind you, he was screaming at me, like literally saying, come get your son. He had pills. He had narcotic pills. And you need to come get him. It was the point where it was so loud that Julian's mom heard it. Sarah heard the dude yelling and literally was like, who is that on the phone? And as he was still yelling, I said, man, stop saying that. My son didn't do no freaking narcotics. He don't even like taking medicine. So I goes down there. And he says, now, he says this through the secretary. And says, tell him I'm busy and I have to call him. Now mind you, people, he was literally right next to the secretary in the doorway, right next to her, that I can barely see. I can just hear his voice. So I says to her, but really to him, I want an appointment with you ASAP. And I said, better yet, you better call me for an appointment because you don't call me and threaten my son. So she looks at him and says, he said, so I'm like, wow. So I said, man, what a pussy. So as we walking out, the girl's mom stops us and says, we are sorry because that assistant principal is trying his hardest to get your son in trouble with those pills. Now, mind you, my son never been in trouble. My son never been suspended. Hell, he ain't never even got called down to the office. And I'm like thinking to myself, why is this man so venomous to get my son? And when that little girl said, the young lady said, he is going to try to get your son in trouble because he was trying to make me say they was narcotic pills so he can get suspended. And I'm like, what else would a white principal, a white assistant principal, have such issues with my son? And that's when it came to the conclusion. He was racially profiling my son. That's all it was. All it was. My son was, when he called my son the N-word and put my son through interrogation, him and my son in that room by themselves, I said to myself, wow, they doing this for no reason other than the color of his skin. Now, after the young lady and her mom tell us they're sorry and our son is getting racially profiled by the assistant principal. Now, mind you, this assistant principal has had issues before with kids and parents, but Howland don't do nothing about it. Howland just let him keep doing what he want to do. So we finally get to the point. He finally calls me later that day and says, "Oh, I heard you wanted to talk to me." I was like, "You knew I wanted to talk to you. You was there when I came up there earlier today. You knew it." So I says, "I need to make an appointment, man, so we can sit down and talk." So he says, "Okay, you can come in on Columbus Day around like, I think 12, 1 o'clock on Columbus Day of last year." So so me and my wife was like, "All right, we will be there." So I says to him, I said, "Man, let's be real here, bro. You knew those weren't narcotic pills, and you knew what those pills was." Because I told him, I was like, the young lady told us that you knew what they were, but you still tried to say you had narcotic pills when you called me, screaming at me. So this prick says to me, and I quote, "This is how cocky they were. This is how cocky they are. So what? He still had them on him." I said, "You knew they wasn't narcotic pills. You knew they was only antibiotics, blood pressure medicine, and ibuprofen." He said, "So what? He still had them on him, and he still gonna get in trouble." Now, this how blatant the racism is at this school. The girl that was involved, she came right back to school on Monday. My son wasn't allowed to come back yet. Wasn't even allowed to come back yet until they do a more thorough investigation. Now, mind you, they had the bottles. They knew what the bottles was this whole time. So when he said that on the phone to me later that day, so what? He still had them on him. I knew right there This could be our word against theirs. And this principal was so cocky that he knew he can get away with it. And that's why he was talking to me so bluntly, telling me this, telling me that. So I says to him, prick, I will see you Monday. So fast forward to Monday, Columbus Day. It's me, my wife, and my son. Now, people, my son literally asked to come. He said, I want to come because I want to look him in his face to see if he gonna try to lie on me. And I said, let's do it then. Because you know what? It's like this, people. You know, we parent, and we want to teach our kids right from wrong. And we have to trust our parenting. And if I didn't trust him, I would have left him at home. But if I trust my parenting and trust that we did a good job on him, best that we can, I have to believe him. And when he came to me and said, I want to come, I knew right there he was telling the truth. Because it was only me, him, and my wife. So we get there, but as we was walking in, something told us, I think you better record it. Record the whole conversation. So we did. We hit record and we saying her name, blah, blah, blah. So mind you, the meeting was at 1 o'clock. We didn't get into the office to start the meeting until about 20 after 1. You want to know why? Because the assistant principal, the main principal, superintendent, all three were in there talking. We literally hear them in there talking. Literally sound like they're hatching a scheme and see if they can intimidate us. Now mind you, me, my wife, and my son, we sitting outside, we just waiting. And mind you, we hear them talking to there. And we like, something is up, man. So they finally come out and say, oh, hey, Mr. Don, y'all come on in. So we come in. And we sit down and everything. Assistant principal tried to shake my hand. You know, I ain't shaking his hand. Superintendent shook his hand. Principal shook his hand. So we sit down. And off the rip, starts off, why you racially profile my son? Oh, we didn't. I mean, he didn't know that we talked to the young lady before this happened. We talked to her thoroughly, told us everything, literally word for word, everything they said in the room with her. But now, remember I said my son couldn't come back yet? Now, on that Monday, on Columbus Day, as we walking up, the young lady is walking out with her dad from school. Because at first we thought they had a meeting too. We thought, you had a meeting today? And he was like, no, I'm picking her up from school. I said, wait a minute, so you allowed to come to school today? She said, yeah. Yeah, they said, I'll come back today. I thought to myself, they are picking on a 14-year-old kid for doing nothing but being a gentleman. A gentleman. You know how hard it is to look your son in the face and say sorry that a grown-up is picking on you for no reason other than being a gentleman? You know how hard that is to look at your son, look at any kid, and he asks you why they doing this? I ain't do nothing wrong. Calling me a nigger for no reason other than get a kick out of it. Now mind, these are three gentlemen that's around kids every day, every day, every day, and they get a kick out of picking on a young man other for kicks just because the color of his skin. I was so mad going to this meeting, but I knew I had to keep my cool, because if I get in there start acting a fool, this is going to say I was a crazy looking nigga. By the way, I hate that word, nigga. Hate it. Anyway, I knew I couldn't go in there like no fool. Second, my wife, being white, you know, we was together for 22 years altogether. Married and everything. See, people, when we first walked into the office, they seen a black guy in some basketball shorts, a hat, glasses. They see a white girl, white woman, and see my son, a mixed kid. And they assumed that we was just a dumb couple, a dumb black and white couple, a in and an in lover. But what they didn't understand is you don't F with my family. You don't F with my kids. You don't mess with a man's kids. Try to throw dirt on my character, on me. Don't throw dirt on my kids for no reason other than being a gentleman. What I taught them to be, a gentleman. Because you got a hard on for my son. You got a hard on for my son. Just because he's a African American. That's it. That's it. That's all it was. The color of his skin. It wasn't because my son was bad. It wasn't because my son was a prick or he had a history of being bad. Nope. All because of the color of his skin. So when I walked in that door with my family, they didn't realize it, but they was dead in the water the moment they messed with my son. Now, I have this is a little thing, people. I have the whole meeting on recording. Now, I did my history. In Ohio, if you record somebody, you have to be in the room with them. You cannot be recording somebody and hide the recorder in the room and you step out. You have to be in there or you can use it. You cannot use it. So, we did our history before we walked up in there. And people, when I say, this guy is dead, these three people are dead in the water, I put it lightly. I have them saying, and I quote, the young lady that he helped They trashed on her and said that she was a troublemaker and she don't don't deserve to be talked about, or she's a piece of crap. She's a piece of crap. This young lady was a piece of crap. This young lady don't worry about her. And on a recording, because I'm gonna put the recording on YouTube today, I told them, I had to tell them, don't talk about her. That's none of my business, none of my wife's business, none of my son's business. She ain't here to talk about her to us. Now, mind you, this chick, this young lady did nothing wrong either. And the superintendent is on this recording talking about this young lady like she's just this rotten individual. Now I'm sitting there like, if you talk about her, a young white girl, a young white lady, young girl, whatever, what are you going to say about my son? What are you going to say about my son? You pray. I mean, I couldn't imagine what they said about my son. Now, mind you, I got all this on recording. And I just started shaking my head like, wow. If we don't got this recording, it'd be our word against theirs, and they would freaking win. Now, if I get into detail about the meeting inside, it'd be too long. That's why I'm just gonna put the recording on YouTube, and do it like that, so y'all get the feeling of what I was dealing with in that room. I'm gonna leave it off like this, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to it, and please give me your opinion, because I truly would like to hear your opinion on the whole matter, because in my mind, it's unfair. It was unfair that my son got racially profiled for no reason other than his color of skin. And second, when people say you black, you should go with a black lawyer, because a black lawyer understands it, and they're this, they're that, they get this, get NAACP, or they're good, they this and that, get a black lawyer. First of all, that's crap. A good lawyer is a good lawyer. A lawyer, white, Puerto Rican, Mexican, Jewish, they when they see something, they point it out. So that's a bunch of crap. Bunch of crap. I don't agree with it. And the reason why I say that is because his name is Attorney Gilbert. And he's an African American attorney. Now, the reason why I'm bringing him up is because this man had us come up there, had us show him everything we have, the recordings, everything. And he tells us, oh man, I'm gonna take the case. So we say, okay. Now, Howland, the moment they knew we was going to get a lawyer and sue them, because as soon as they figured out, like, we recorded them and we ain't gonna lay down for this. Next thing you know, my son was picked on literally every day. Every day. Because we had to keep him in the school until we could get him enrolled somewhere else. Now, people, when I say evil is evil, school systems should be looked it should be somebody, an independent company that go and investigate all these schools thoroughly, because the superintendent of Howland found a way to literally, now, my son, ain't no 4.0, but he bought a 2.8, 3.0 kid, play sports and everything. From the day they figured out that we were going to not press charge, but take him to court, sue him, my son was not allowed to go back to Harding High School. Now, mind you now, my son has went to Harding High School before, 7th, 8th grade. And no problems. Love my son, but he's a great kid, blah, blah. Now, a week after everything happened, because that whole week was hell for my son, the same principal that racially profiling, managed the buses. What I mean by that, when the buses come in, he tell them where to stop, unload the kids, and keep it moving. So my son was on the bus, and this principal, my son said it, was eyeballing my son from the moment he seen what bus my son was on. Eyeballing him the whole time now, the whole time. My son said he felt so uncomfortable, he tried to go around his friends and stuff where he didn't have to walk past his principal. Now, my son got in the building. This assistant principal now, after we had the meeting on Monday, that Columbus Day, and was told in that meeting, when y'all hear on the tape, was told, from this day on, you are not allowed to be in a room with his son without nobody there or one of his parents being there with him. And when we was in that room, and the superintendent said it to him, and I told him, don't go near my son no more. So he knew about it. He knew he wasn't allowed to be in the room with my son. So my son gets home, and I noticed he was kind of anxious or nervous. And I was like, what's up? What's wrong? He says to me that assistant principal, he pulled me in his office and shut the door and said, oh, well, you ain't getting suspended. And now, mind you, people, we knew that already. We already established that in the office. We knew it. So, we knew it, so he didn't have to keep saying it. And then, as my son was like, can I just call my mom and dad? Because I don't feel comfortable. So this person said, no, it ain't that important. And as my son was about to walk out, he says, but you still go get in trouble for those pills you had. Now, mind you, people, he knew they wasn't what they were. And he still picked with my son. Had to do it. This is the cockiness of Howland Middle School, Howland schools in general. This is the stuff that me and my family had to deal with the day we told them we're suing them, we're taking them to court for what you did to my son. And from that day on, so we call up there and say, didn't we say we didn't want him near my son? Didn't we? So now we had a second meeting on Wednesday of that same week with the superintendent. This is superintendent. No principals, no nothing. Now, we got a recorder on that too. This superintendent now, who still got his job, hell, I think he got a raise. And y'all will hear it on there, bad-mouthing every employee at Howland, saying some of these employees are idiots and they don't understand the logic of making money and stop putting people in categories and stuff like that. So me and my wife, we sitting there like we got to keep him talking because we getting all this on recording. So on the tape, you hear me say, "Why do you think he went so dark? Why do you think he framed my son for no reason other than the color of his skin?" His exact words on the tape is, "I don't know. I don't know why he did that. I do not know." And I said, there it is. He knew it, they knew it, and they tried to cover it up. And we have all this on recording. Everything. So when that Thursday or Friday, I had called them to let them know, hey, we're going forward with a lawsuit. So I'm just letting you know. Ladies and gentlemen, when I say I got bothered the moment that happened, it's putting it lightly. What a coincidence. Starting that Monday, every teacher my son had, they were trying to break my son and make him look like the worst kid in Howland. Every day, my son got a notice saying you was doing this, you didn't do that. They tried to ruin my son's life, all because assistant principal and the superintendent are racist and they didn't like him because of the color of his skin. No other reason. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I was making this up. I really do. But these people are that evil. So that following week, after talking to the superintendent, my son messed up his knee. He tore his MCL. So I had to go pick him up and take him to the hospital. Now, my son he was hurting. Knee swelled up immediately, he said. So I goes to pick him up, go inside, and you gotta get on this computer and sign him out and everything and pull him down. Now the secretary was like showing me how to do it, like you gotta do it like this and that. It shouldn't take that long to get him down here. So I was like, okay, I'll just sit here. But as I'm like typing in his name, 3 Howland white cops comes to the door now, comes to my door, comes to the school door, opens it up, and says, Keith, get out of here, get out here. Now people, to this day, I do not know how they knew my name until I started digging. Now, this cop that says my name, grabs me by my arm, pulls me out of this little room, and I'm saying, what did I do? Why are y'all doing this to me? What's up? What happened? they says to me, you got to get out of here. Now, mind you, people, I'm like, yeah, I'm leaving as soon as I get my son. He's hurt. So all three of them says, you know you ain't allowed to be here. I said, what you talking about? Why would I not be allowed to be here? He says to me, oh, they sent you an email saying you ain't allowed on property, private property, you trespassing, you trying to do this. I said, private property and trespassing? What you talking about? I ain't getting no email, no paper, no nothing. Now, mind you, these three cops literally said, and I quote, Keith, you know you know you're supposed to be here. You know this is trespassing. You ain't allowed on private property. Get out of here. Get your butt out of here. So I says to them, do y'all got the wrong person or something? Because I'm just here picking up my son. We got the right person, Keith. I seen the email they sent you saying we will press charges if you come on private property and this and that, this and that. I said, an email. I said, they ain't send me no email about they pressing charges if I come on school grounds and come get my son. And I was like, wouldn't I got to be pretty stupid of me to get an email like you say I got, read it and say, screw you, I'm still coming to get my son, when I'm taking them to court for racially profiling my son. And I was like, wow. So people, I started putting it together like, no, these dudes ain't. Howland Police is helping Howland Middle School superintendent principals to slander my name and my son. Now, I said to them, because when they pulled me out, they were in my face. And I said, back up. I ain't doing nothing wrong. So he said, get up, get up. Kept on pushing me back. So I said, oh, I see what this is now. Okay, I get it now. Who's Wayne y'all sucking up in here? Because somebody sucking somebody off, because how you know my name and you just literally said you seen the email that don't exist, never existed, never got an email, never got a freaking letter in the mail saying Mr. Thomas ain't allowed on our property no more, and so forth and so forth. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is the kicker. This is the beautiful kicker. Why my wife lied on the grounds at Howland. She allowed to pick up my son. Allowed to pick him up and everything. Now, my wife is white. And she was in that room right along with me, cussing him out. And she was allowed on this ground to pick my son up from school. But I wasn't in. They said they got an email showing that they sent it to me. The cop said this. Every cop that was there said they seen the email. I was lying. They were telling the truth. And they said, get your butt off the private property. So I says, oh, I see what's going on. I said, y'all just as racist as they are. So they look at me and say, so? You don't like it, get your black butt out of here and take your son with you. You know how hard it is hearing that? And mind you, people, my son was right down there in the doorway watching the whole thing. Knee swole and everything. Watching it. Thinking it was his fault because he got hurt and I had to come pick him up. All of this is because my son did was a gentleman. A gentleman. That's all he was a gentleman. As he say, get my black butt and take my son with me, he kicked me across the street. And these 3 cops had the nerve to come up to me and say, you're a liar. Here go a ticket for trespassing, this and that. And I said, well, if y'all seen this email, when was it sent then? Because I don't got no email. I don't got no paper saying that. They said to me, don't worry about it. We seen it. Now, I say to them, okay, wow. I was like, man, Howland Police Department has no morals. None. So, go back to my black attorney. I called him and said, look, man, they literally just lied and said they sent me an email, they told me this, told me that. He says to me, Attorney Gilbert says to me, fight it. Do not take no plea deal, nothing. Fight it. So I said, all right, I was going to fight it anyway. I ain't about to let them lie. So I'm fighting this. I mean, this went on for 3.5 months. Now, I don't know court system in Ohio. If you don't show up after the 3rd time, the case get kicked out. It's over with. You know, no show, you free to go. You don't got to come here no more. This is Warren City. So they didn't show up not one time. Not the cops, not any lawyer from Howland didn't show up not one time. Now, after the 3rd one, remember I said they got to kick it out. The prosecutor for Warren, I think his last name Graham, looks at me in the courtroom. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish I was making this up. I really did. I really do. My Lord and Savior can strike me down right now if I'm lying. This guy, Graham, the prosecutor's name might be something else. I don't know. I don't care. Looks at me after the 3rd one, and I looked at the judge. I said, Judge, this is all made up. They're lying. They're trying to smear my name because I'm taking them to court. The judge looks at me and shook his head like, Because I was like, why? If I'm here 3 times, they didn't show up one time. One time they didn't show up for court. Not one time. But it was okay. And the prosecutor says to me, as the judge looking at me started believing me, says, you got more than just this to worry about. And I looked at him and said, what's that supposed to mean? And I said, whatever. I was like, man, I ain't listening to it. But as I'm about to walk out, the prosecutor extends the case for a 4th time. 4th time for Howland to show up. He tells me, because when we went in the hallway, after you got a signed paper saying like, but you was here and everything, he says to me, and I quote, you're a liar, and I'm going to give Howland schools a chance to prove you a liar. People, now mind you, he said this in front of other lawyers. I had to use a different lawyer for this case because they did this to me. So it was a legal aid attorney, by the way, it's terrible. He says that in front of her, you're lying, I'm going to prove it. And I look at him and says, well, when I beat you, don't come shaking my hand. And this prosecutor says to me, and I quote, "You people always win, don't y'all? Don't y'all? Y'all always win." Now, people, my legal aid attorney, she was sitting right there. Right there. Says to me, "You should just take a deal." I said, "Take a deal? I didn't do nothing." They are completely lying. She says, looks at me again and says, "Well, I got to get you out of this courtroom, get you into courtroom 2. I'm like, okay, whatever. So, now mind you, remember I said they extended it for a 4th time? I'm mad at this time. Like, this is jacked up. So I'm walking out. The same prosecutor tried to walk by me like he didn't see me. So I said, "Boy, you're doing your job pretty good. You sucking good dick somewhere because you got the thing to the fourth try. But like I said the first time, you're lying, they're lying, and I'm going to beat all y'all pricks." He said, "You better shut up or I put you in jail." I said, "So what you going to put me in jail for? Calling you a prick the first time, the second time, or the third time? Because I don't know what would I go to jail for." I said, "Trust me, bro, who need to get in jail is you." Now, mind you, people, this is going on in front of everybody. Because this is frustrated. It has got me. Like, why am I getting railroaded for doing nothing? So, this pussy ground prosecutor just tried to hurry up and walk away. And I was like, you can walk fast as you want, bro. It ain't going no, you ain't stopping being a prick. You gonna be a prick here and over there. So I had to show for the 4th time. Now, the second judge gets it. He says, "Why is this here? Why is this case still going on?" Now, mind you, people, this happened. I had to go. The first time I went to court was in December. And ladies and gentlemen, guess when the case finally got done? In June of this year. This year, kept delaying it, the 4th one. So I goes in for the 4th one and says, man, when the judge says, "Man, this case is over with," he looked at me and said, "Mr. Thomas, look, man, don't go over there for a couple years, man. You ain't guilty or nothing. Just don't go over there." So I'm thinking like, all right. You know, just don't go over there. And I walks out. So, remember I told you about my black attorney? So, now mind you, y'all, Attorney Gilbert in Akron tells me to fight it from day one. Fight it, Mr. Thomas. Fight it because you want to show people that you ain't taking nothing laying down. And I said, "I got you." I said, even though the case is going to take longer because they threw this bogus crap at me because they mad. And by the way, I got harassed at least 4 times by police in Howland. Because I had to pick my wife up at work. And people, when I say I got literally harassed for no reason other than them knowing who I am. Literally pulled over so many times. I got pulled over one time at a stoplight. Now, my Attorney Gilbert, African American, keep fighting it. Just keep going to court. I'm like, all right, but I'm tired of doing this because I'm like, I'm not wrong. So when I went the 4th time, they finally said, "Go, it's over and done with." I'm like, "Good." So I calls him up and says, "Hey, the case is over with, man. Let's move forward. Let's start whooping their tail." He says, "Oh, okay. He said, "Mr. Thomas, do you want me to represent you in this case against Howland Middle School?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Okay, now I represent you." So I'm like, all right, good. Now, people, I call him about once every 2 months I call him to say, "What's going on, anything new?" Because I didn't want to bother him. Every time I called him, I probably called him probably about 4 or 5 times from last year to now. Even after we went up there to meet him and everything, he wrote everything down and we signed everything to get it going. He didn't know my name. He kept calling me Keith Thompson. Then one time he says, "Who is this, Kevin? Kevin something?" I said, "No, this is Keith." And his excuse for not knowing my name and saying was, "Oh, I have a lot of Keith Thomases. That's why I don't remember your name." I said, "You got a lot of Keith Lamar Thomases from Warren, Ohio." And people, I'm like, I get a little nervous, but I'm like, well, he's a good attorney, you know what I mean? NAACP pointed me to him. And I'm like, maybe it's just a glitch, you know what I mean? You know, he got a lot of business, you know, so I wasn't nervous about it. But after the 4th or 5th time, he kept doing it, kept calling me different names, didn't know my case, one time he didn't even know what I was talking about. And tried to play it off as saying, "Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that. I'm sorry, I was just reading a different section of your case." Now, mind you, man, I was so nervous when he did that because I'm thinking, like, this dude don't know my name. How he going to fight for me? And, like, now, mind you, I call him once every couple of months. And the last time I called him, I said, Attorney Gilbert, like, "Hey, you know, are they talking to you? Do they want to try to talk out of court?" What? And he yells at me, "We ain't that far yet. Why are you calling me? You gotta wait till it takes time." Now, people, I'm sitting there like, wait a minute. Why are you yelling at me? You don't even know my name. And I'm like, oh my God, man. And my wife was like, "I'm getting nervous, man. This dude don't even know our names, don't even know our case. Didn't even know my son's name. Didn't even ask to meet my son one time." Now, mind you, people, I didn't disclose this, but my son is on disability. My son is on disability for when it's called apraxia, speech delay. They get nervous and what's in their mind don't come out their mouth the same way. So a lot of them, a lot of kids have it. They don't speak that much. They only speak when they have to. Now, my son was, he's nervous, naive. My son was so scared in that room with that principal that day, he was picking his side to the point where he started bleeding, had blood everywhere on the side of his pants, everywhere, because this principal had him in his office so scared that he was going to go to jail because Howland has cops that come up there and sit up there to make sure no problems and nothing. He says to my son that day, "See those cops out there, they will take you if you don't tell the truth in here." Now you see why I'm fighting for him so hard? Not just because of disability, not because the boy's still nervous as crap, scared, still went in there that day and looked his freaking assistant principal in his face and said, "You are a liar. You did not say none of that to me." And that's the stuff I have to get out. Now, back to the attorney. This guy didn't even know our name. Called me Kevin Thompson, Keith Thompson. Now, mind you, when y'all hear the tapes, everything will come together and it's going to blow your mind away. Absolutely blow your mind away, people. I'm going to leave it with this. Parents, please trust your parenting. If your kids come home and say something happened, please believe especially if you know your kids ain't nothing bad about them, ain't nothing wrong with them, because you do not know what can happen if you don't. Please, all this racism out here is getting unbelievable. I have a saying, I say to everybody I meet, smile. We got enough evil and racism out here. How about we try to have a little positive once in a while? And second, go in your gut. Don't ever go with somebody else say. I made the biggest mistake by going by what the NAACP tells me about this guy, Attorney Gilbert from Akron. He's a good lawyer. He's a black lawyer. He knows racism, this and that. He knows racism, he knows this and that, but the man didn't even know my son's name, which was an African American. Didn't even meet him one time. Not one time. Didn't even know he's a disability. But he's a good black lawyer. I'm just saying this. Don't leave your faith in somebody else's hands. Because I tell you right now, that was my second biggest mistake. My first one was let my son go to Howland Middle School. My second mistake was going to NAACP and letting them tell me what a good lawyer is. Because sometimes African Americans do more damage to African Americans than Caucasians do to African Americans. I'm just one of those people that I'm not to follow the line, people. If I see something wrong, I'm gonna call it out. But I'm just saying this, people. If y'all listen to it, please leave a comment. Then after I put the audio on, leave another comment for that. Thank you. You have a good one. And hey, like I said, smile. We got enough evil in this world. And racism.